welcome back to another episode of Getting Speakers Booked, a podcast by speakers for speakers. I'm your host, Macy Baxi, and I've been building my speaker community for the past year. So if you are a speaker, you're looking to get connected to other speakers, you can join in the description the Global Speaker Circle group on Facebook. But today, I'm so excited to have my guest, Jim Cathcart, with us today. Guys, there's so much. I feel like a better way to introduce him would be like things he hasn't done. But Jim has been honored by Toastmasters 3 different times. He was saying over 27 years, which is just incredible. They've been bringing him back since I think 97 is when you said. He's spoken, yeah. 95. He's spoken at countless events over in China. He's speaking in Malaysia next week. So he is a speaker when you think, oh, someone who has done it all, this is the person. So Jim, thank you so much for the time today. I'm so honored and excited. Well, why don't we get started? Because I talked just a little bit. I talked about just the iceberg of things that you've done. So why don't you introduce yourself just a little bit, tell people what you do, and then some of the accomplishments that they'd be very surprised to learn.
Okay, thank you. I became a professional speaker at about the time that professional speaking became a viable industry. In the 1970s, I was listening to cassettes of, yes, I'm that old, of Earl Nightingale, the Dean of Personal Motivation. And I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I'd grown up. And I was working as a government clerk, expecting an ordinary, unremarkable life. And then I heard this motivational message on the radio one day. And he said, if you'll spend 1 hour extra studying your chosen field every day, for 5 years from now, you'll be a leading expert. And I thought, that works. Hour a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, 5 years, that's 1,250 hours. Yeah. But what do I want to be an expert at? I didn't know. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I wanted to do what he was doing, the guy on the radio. I wanted to help people grow, to be a motivator. But I'd never achieved anything. I wasn't a great student. I wasn't an athlete. I didn't have money. Didn't know anybody with money. My dad was a telephone repairman, good guy, but success wasn't a discussion point in our home. And I was newly married with a baby at home, and I was 50 pounds overweight. So life didn't seem like it had that much in store for me. And I thought, if I can study his field for 5 years, then I'll actually have something to say. So I became a fanatic, and I mean literally a fanatic, about studying the field of personal development. Applied behavioral science is the technical term. But I read every success book on the market, and there were only a few back in the 70s. And I listened to recordings, and whenever I heard there was a speaker somewhere, I would go sneak into the back of the room and listen. And just anything I could do to get around motivation and self-development. Well, that opened up possibilities. And I got to where I was asked to lead group discussions about goal setting and communication and achievement. And then I was asked to give presentations. And then I joined the Junior Chamber of Commerce, the JCs, which back then was 350,000 people. And today it's not very big, but back then it was huge. And I went to 400 JC's meetings after working on weekends for free in 2 years. 400 meetings, 2 years, no money. I presented at every one of those meetings a report, taught a technique, or gave a speech or something. And by the end of that time, I was getting pretty good. I was very confident. I had completed a lot of study, and I knew what I was talking about. So at the end of that time, I was able to go into the field of training and development full time. And 2 years later, went out on my own as an independent speaker and consultant. And now I've done 3,500 paid speeches literally all over the world and written 27 books. So it's been a good ride, and I'm still going.
It's a very good ride, very good ride. I want to highlight a few things that you mentioned because it's amazing. I think especially now, there's so much instant guarantees that people think that that 90-day sprint, that 6-month sprint, that's going to get me to where I'm going to go. But you're saying you spent 5 years, but it's not just like 5 passive years where you went to like one conference a year, you talked to maybe 3 people, you're like, you were going to every single event you could get your hands on. And that's crazy. I didn't even know the Junior
And
Chamber
if I
Conference
didn't
was
have
that
the
big.
money, I would find a way. Like
Exactly.
I'd find a friend or get a pass or be a guest or go in and volunteer and do some, moving chairs and putting up signs and taking registration. Anything to get myself into the room or near the people I wanted to learn from.
Yeah.
And I didn't, when they would say, tell me about yourself, I'd basically say no. And I'd ask them a question because I didn't have anything to share. I was there to learn. And that's the thing. You got to be humble and you got to be willing to work hard. And you've got to consider that on all the things that you think you really, really, really know, you're probably wrong. So just assume you are, right?
Right.
And go in with a learner's mind, a giver, a volunteer, a helper, a grateful and eager mind. And you will find that doors open for you and the biggest names in the world say, come here, kid, let me tell you something, you know?
Yep. Yeah, and that's a great point, and I know that I experienced that firsthand when I was like 17 and I just started podcasting and I was interviewing all these amazingly successful people, and that's kind of where I learned everything. Is I wanted to respect their time and I wanted to be nice, and it got me to a relationship now with so many of these people where they know me, right, and they know my character and they can trust me when I talk to them. When I say, can we get on a call, they don't ask more than one question of what time, right? They don't ask that much more because they know me and they trust me, and I've built that. But what I obviously the biggest part for that I think a lot of people will be very intrigued is obviously the 3,500 paid speaking gigs across the world, because I mean, we love speaking. We're speakers. We'll talk to anyone, right? We'll talk to a fork if it wants to listen to us. But getting paid for it, I mean, that's what we're here to learn. So I'd love for you to walk us through like that first paid speaking gig, or maybe the
You
first
bet.
10.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? How did you
Well,
get to that
at
level?
first, now remember, I was volunteering in a civic club, the JCs, which is like Kiwanis or Lions or Rotary, that kind of thing. Um, but it's for young adults. And I wanted I wanted to learn everything. I read all the manuals. If you're going to be a officer in your local chapter in your neighborhood, uh, they give you an officers and directors guide. Well, I was the only guy in my chapter out of 25 people who had read the officers and directors guide. I read it, every word of it, 3 times, reading and rereading things I had already read, including footnotes and the little comments under the photographs. I read everything 3 times, and I found that other people started deferring to me. Well, Jim, what's the best technique for this? Jim, tell us how this works. Really? Okay, so I would just quote what I had learned like an hour earlier, reading the 3rd or 4th time through something. Um, if you want to get paid to speak, it's not about getting exposed to the market and going and speaking here, there, and everywhere so people will see you and want to hire you. Because if you're not really good, if you're not worth paying for yet, that's going to kill the market for you. That's going to poison the well. So go out and volunteer and help and lead a discussion, or just give some comments, or be the master of ceremonies, or direct a training exercise or something, but be a facilitator at first instead of trying to be the featured speaker, because your ego tells you, hey, you've got it, man, that's a great one. Go out there and give that and people will pay you. They'll just throw money at you. No, they won't. And the second thing, the first thing, let me get real clear. The only reason you would want a speaker is to solve a problem or watch a show. Either this is the best storyteller and the funniest person you've ever met and you just can't wait to see them again, or they're going to help you solve a problem or learn a skill, right? So that's what people pay for. They don't pay for speakers. They pay for an experience or a solution. And if
Exactly.
you can bring both, double whammy. So that's good. So be a problem solver and be humble about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then get better and better and better at speaking by going to Toastmasters or going anywhere you can to practice your speaking skills in a non threatening environment where you've got supportive feedback from other people. Toastmasters is the easiest and the least expensive and the most available because it's
Mm-hmm.
all over the world. It's got
Yep.
360,000 members and 16,800 clubs across country boundaries. Next thing is choose a market. For me, my first market of buyers I was going to do business with was people in banking and life insurance. Why? Because I had worked in 3 different banks and I had sold life insurance. So I understood their world a little bit and understood their language and how they looked at things. And so when I first started offering my skills as a trainer and speaker, it was to banks and to insurance agencies. And I would do whatever they would allow me to do. I would give a speech on goal setting for $100. I would show up for a free lunch and the ability to hand out my brochures afterwards to just give a speech to a group that I knew some of them could hire me. But make sure the people you're speaking to in that case are people who could either recommend you or personally hire you. And I went to work for an insurance agency in Tulsa, Oklahoma as a sales trainer. And I was trying to build my speaking career. And so I was sending out mailers and doing all kinds of promotion to get known. But my day job, so to speak, was coaching the salespeople in that insurance agency and being a confidant and an advisor to the general manager of the agency. Well, the agency did really well, and I started getting calls from other agencies. Can you come teach us what you guys did? So that led to 35 speech bookings, all of them kind of low paid. But then I started getting bigger and bigger ones. And then the industry association said, hey, come speak on our main stage. Well, I've done 3,500 of those now. My smallest fee ever was free. My next smallest fee was $100 for speaking at the opening faculty orientation for a junior college in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My highest speaking fee was $40,000 cash plus round trip first class airfare from San Diego, California to Macau, China. I spoke to 1,000 people from Australia, and they literally paid me $40,000 for a 1 hour keynote speech. Wow. How do you get to that level? One little speech at a time. Become more and more valuable as a problem solver, more and more amazing as a performer. And those are two separate paths, but they complement
Yes.
each other. And when you get to where those two converge and you become a known celebrity in your field, then you'll get fees like that.
Yeah.
See, I've written 27 books. How many of those books have produced $10,000 in profit? Less than 10. Seriously. Yeah. 27 books I've written, either authored or co authored. And out of that, about 10 of them have paid off. And about 5 of those have brought in a lot of money and really opened doors for me. And
Yeah.
I'm always writing yet another book. So this is done one stage at a time. And what I do is I mentor people who are speakers or coaches or consultants, or, they want to get known and build a career around that. And I show them how to go from being just an expert to being a leading authority or being a celebrity or being a star in their chosen niche.
Mm. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, there's so much amazing things that you mentioned. Some of my favorites were obviously being a problem solver and being an entertainer. Like I can see so many speakers that I know that fall into either one or the other category for really great reasons. And I totally see the the benefit of wanting to have both part of your speech, part of your brand, I think is the biggest part,
Yeah.
right? You need to be seen as
If
someone who has that
if you're not
solution.
a problem solver, in other words, if your message isn't really valuable, then you better be darn good as a performer.
Right.
If you're not a particularly good performer, then you better be darn good as a problem solver. And if you can
Exactly.
blend those two, there's the magic.
And there's so much to be said also as like when people say that they solve problems, because I think this is an also big problem for speakers, is they are great problem solvers, but it's there's sometimes the mixed messaging, and the people don't even know what that problem is, because it's kind of like we use such nice words sometimes, because a lot of us are authors and writers, and we want to say like invisibility and like not looking at, and it's like people don't know what that means. We have to use simple language when we discuss this problem. But
Well,
that's an entirely new like interview, and I don't want to take from the
yeah.
amazing things you've already said. So
But
I'm sure you know.
do remember, listeners, that the problem you're solving needs to be a problem that the audience cares about.
Exactly.
So don't bring them something that matters only to you. Make sure it matters to them, because the only reason
Hmm.
for a speech is for the audience to get value. It's not about you, the speaker, it's about them. I've got a free
Hmm.
book, by the way. Go to free.cathcart, my last name, .com, and you can download my latest book, What to Do When You're the Speaker. I wrote it for professional speakers, not beginners, but everybody can benefit from it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for mentioning that, and it's a great segue into I definitely want to bring up go to cathcart.com. The link will be in the description / show notes wherever you're listening or watching, so people can click, copy, and paste, make it a little bit easier. Jim was telling me all about the amazing free resources for speakers, I believe new and professional and experienced, and those who know that they're ready for their $40,000 keynote 1 hour speech in Macau, China, and in Australia. So one speech at a time, but Jim will definitely get you there. Jim, before we wrap up, I just want to spend a really quick minute talking about the amazing event you and I have coming up in December 29th and 30th here in Orlando, Florida, where I am. The Goal Achiever Summit. Talk just very briefly on what you're going to be sharing on the stage on those amazing days.
Okay. First off, it's vitally important that you tell the world what you want so that it can give you what you want. Every day you're asked, what do you want? And if you don't have a good answer, then you get what somebody else wants by default. So when you walk up to the counter at a Starbucks, they're going to look at you and say, good morning. What do you want? And if you don't know, they're going to say, please step aside. She knows what she wants, right? So figure out what you want and then write it down. That's why the Goal Achiever Summit is happening. And why at the end of the year? Because it's the perfect time to reflect on what's happened, to aspire to what you want, and to get clear with your plan on how you're going to bring it about. So that's what I'm going to talk about, is how do you turn this moment of thinking and planning opportunity and networking opportunity with all the other great people there into a booster rocket for your advancement in 2026.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Jim. I'm super excited about this event coming up in December 29th and 30th. Again, here in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be like, I believe, like downtown, like here in Orlando, right? And I definitely want to add that I know so many of the speakers, I think there's about 40 of us or so. We're going to be speaking, we're going to have a great time, but I know a lot of us are planning to attend. Like, we'll be there. You'll be able to talk to us, you'll be able to talk and really learn. We'll learn with you. So I'm excited to listen to Jim's talk. That's going to be a standout for me. So, Jim, again, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. This has been so valuable for me, and I know so many of our listeners will get some value as well. So I
It's
really
a treat
appreciate
for
it.
me, Macy. Thank you. I appreciate being here. See you.
Thank you. And to everyone watching, we really appreciate you as well. All of the information that we discussed about Goal Achievers, about Jim, about the Global Speaker Circle will be in the description, show notes. Click, copy and paste, whatever makes it easier. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.